Okay, common point of confusion for students is over prepositions and subordinating conjunctions in a few cases. Some of them, words such as after, until, as, before, as long as, until, these words can sometimes be prepositions and sometimes they're subordinating conjunctions. When they're prepositions, they're going to be setting up prepositional phrases. And when they're subordinating conjunctions, they're setting up dependent clauses. So the same words can have very different uses within the sentence. One can set up a phrase while the other sets up a clause. So there's a real, issue of confusion there. So what I'm going to do is go through some of the logic of it. Now, what you'll see in both cases is not long after a preposition and not long after a subordinating conjunction, you're going to have a noun. So such as this example right here, after midnight the coyotes start hunting for small prey. Well, you have the word after, which is quite often a preposition, but it could be a subordinating conjunction. By looking at it, you don't know if it's a preposition or a subordinating conjunction. And if you stop right here, you don't know if you have a prepositional phrase or a subordinating conjunction. In fact, if you go to the next word, midnight, that's a noun. You still don't know. That noun could be functioning as a subject or it could be functioning as the object. If it's the object, it belongs to the preposition. If it's a subject, then it's going to have a verb following after it. So if we keep looking, after midnight, the coyotes, well, that gives you the clue or gives you the hint. There's no verb following midnight. In fact, the first verb is start. Coyotes start. The subject and verb are coyotes start. That's the independent clause. This start does not go with midnight. Midnight does not have a verb. Instead, it's sitting by itself. It belongs to after. So after is a preposition, but you don't know that until you get into the sentence a little bit. Midnight is a noun. You can tell that pretty quickly. So this becomes a prepositional phrase, and it's acting as an adverb telling you when they start hunting. That's what it's doing. It's not a dependent clause, and this is not a subordinating conjunction because there's no verb to go with that noun. That's not a clause there. So you would have to have a clause for that to be a subordinating conjunction or in a dependent clause. So it doesn't exist, so what you have instead is the default, the prepositional phrase. If you go to the next one, the coyotes often yelp after they catch a rabbit. Okay, here you once again have after. And what you want to do is check what follows after the word after. After they catch a rabbit. Well, they is a pronoun. Pronouns function as nouns. So that's essentially a noun. It doesn't tell you too much. But notice right over here, catch. That's a verb. So what you have is a pronoun over here functioning as the subject. And it has a verb coming soon after it, functioning as the verb. That's a clause. Its structure is logically different than a phrase, which ends with a word and it doesn't have a subject and verb. This is a subordinating conjunction setting up a dependent clause. And notice what you can do with it. You can move it, and it's the whole darn thing. After they catch a rabbit, the coyotes often yelp. Notice that the entire clause could move to the front or to the back, and the after acts as a conjunction, operating from the front of the sentence or from the middle of the sentence. That's a subordinating conjunction holding a dependent clause onto your independent clause. Okay? So this one can also move. After midnight can move, but for a very different reason. This one can move because it's functioning as an adverb in the sentence. You could say the coyotes start hunting for small prey after midnight. You could move it, but for a very different reason, because this is functioning as an adverb, and because adverbs can move in this sentence. So in both cases they can move from the front to the back of the sentence, but for very different reasons. What you want to look for is there actually a clause coming after the word that's in question? The after, the until, as, before, as long as, until. The ones that create the most trouble are the after, until, and before. Those are often can more frequently come up as prepositions or a subordinating conjunction. Look at what's following them. You can't tell by whether or not you can move them, because in both cases you might be able to move them. What you look for, is there a subject and verb following it? If there is, you have a clause. If there isn't, you have a prepositional phrase. Okay? Take care.